So I just kind of wanted to yammer on about the mind-body connection insight thing that I noticed a couple of days ago. And this is epic. This is probably one of the craziest things that I've ever noticed, and it's so obvious. So in terms of the mind-body connection, right? Like your perception of yourself, your beliefs about yourself, all that stuff is up here, right? And so that idea of the self has to connect in with the world. And it's like, well, how does it connect? It's here. So the way that it connects to the world is you're grabbing your head. And what are you grabbing your head with? It's all this musculature, all the way out to the fingertips, to the feet. All of it's grabbing the head. So if you have an image, if you have a vision, if you have an idea, you grab the head. As if you move that idea, or if you move the head, moving the head moves the idea, and vice versa. Moving the idea will move the body. Because if you grab your head and you move the idea, or if you move the idea around, the head's going to go with it because the idea is in the head. So you could summarize all of this as all the beliefs, the perceptions, and the thoughts is like the electromagnetic field, the magnet stuff. The effect of the head is all going out, and it's like having this ball of energy that you could call your mental self image, and it gets yanked around. And if your neck is not just strong but also like nuanced, if it's capable of like staying with the idea without interrupting it and not letting the idea go away, then you have a mind-body connection. And that happens like through the neck, even though there's really only one. It's not like there's just the neck muscle. It's like the whole body is grabbing onto it. But the idea of the self, all of your ideas, all of like the vast majority of all your thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions are happening in the brain, as far as we can tell, in the head. So even if you're looking at this like symbolically, if you're looking at it scientifically, the skull contains the beliefs. So if you want to hold on to your beliefs, if you want to hold on to the idea of yourself, you hold the skull. So that you hold the skull with the musculature, and then that's your kinetic chain between heaven and earth. It's literally grabbing the brain. So the same way that you use your foot to walk, you use your head to walk, and there's a kinetic chain involved. And it's the brain is not just an organ that thinks. The brain is the magnetic coupling to the idea that you have of yourself. It's how the idea of the self couples to this level and this frame of reality, in large part, is through the brain. And I'm sure this is the other crazy thing. Like the more that you know and the more that you figure out, the more all these little simple things of like, what is the brain for? Like, what is the feet for? What is the heart for? What is the DNA for? You can only fathom uses for those things to the degree that you are trained, smart, and intelligent. So that the more experience you get, the smarter you get, the better trained you get, the more practice you have, the more insight you're going to have about any particular organ system or activity or anything that you do. So it's constantly evolving as you get better. All of your presuppositions will also get better. And as if you improve a presupposition, it's very likely that you'll have a paradigmatic collapse, right? And so I guess kind of what I'm saying is that people continue to want to find the correct presuppositions and then build the correct structure on top of the most stable and enduring presupposition. And I would say that the only stable and enduring presupposition is, as far as I can tell, that the closest that you're ever going to get to God or truth as a person is going to be through Jesus Christ, in at least this particular epoch or in this particular story. Like, that's the only truth. And then outside of that, the paradigmatic presuppositions need to be handled much more like swimming. much more like water, as in I'm not looking for the thing. I'm just like, how do I tread water here? There goes a presupposition. There goes a presupposition. Not being caught in relativity, because like the water is consistent. It's not relative. And then there is a mountain of truth kind of rising up out of the sea that has a solidness and a stability that is at least beyond human comprehension, and such that it can't necessarily be questioned or improved upon from a standpoint of personal knowing or me figuring it out. So it's like, that's the rock, that's the truth. It just exists there, just like this ground exists here. I can stand on the truth, but I can't figure it out. And then the thing that you can figure out in terms of truth is that swimming ability of like, if your skill level is seen to be infinitely adequate, you'll see yourself as infinitely genius and infinitely inadequate, and that is the mental posture of swimming. Completely sure of what you know, the same way you can be completely sure that you're like touching water, and also you see it collapse and become insufficient immediately. Right? So it's not this thing where, I don't know, so I'm totally detached from reality and this blah, blah, blah. It's like, I know for sure. I'm not running away from the idea of an objective truth, but I also see it shifting and spiraling, currenting, eddying as I move through it, exactly like water. And so you'll have 100% knowing and 100% allowing at the same time, and that is much more close to mental. It's the equivalent of mental swimming. Things like science and materialism and things like that are more close to like building like bricks on land and walking to where it's like, I'm standing, where am I standing? Right here. Like when you're swimming, even if your position isn't moving, like what are you resting on? It's constantly changing, even if you're completely consistent and staying in the same location. So there's different modes of mental behavior that are analogous to swimming and walking, obviously. And but yeah, the brain is huge. Grab your brain. Just grab your brain. If you grab your brain, you're present, you're mindful, you're focused. And you can't be, if you're grabbing your brain from the outside, you're obviously not going to be trapped in your head like an intellectual, or like an intellectual is trapped in their head. They're not grabbing it, they're not controlling it, they're in it. And so the instant that you start grabbing and controlling your head, I would say definitely use like the iron neck combined with the stretch band if you need work on this. Then you're no longer trapped in your head. How could you be trapped in your head if you're holding your head? If you're holding your brain and controlling your brain with your body, how could you possibly trapped in it? And it can't. So like it just kind of fixes everything almost. Pop, 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 pop. And it's crazy, like it's almost like you could figure out the science of flying, right? Birds don't know how to fly. Only people know how to fly. Birds are the masters of flight, but they don't know how to fly. And so it's the same thing with like moving and thinking and intellectualism. There's certain things that are like much more naturally better at thought. I'd say like demons and genius, right? Those things are actually like animalistic masters of thought, what we would call kind of angels and genies, jinn. Those things think just like birds fly. And so we have those things inside of us, and they just think masterfully the same way that the birds fly, but only humans can reverse engineer and understand how a genie thinks, how an angel thinks, how a genius thinks, how a jinn thinks, a daemon, and what is that, Aristotle, Plato's. We can understand how those things think, even though we can't do it as well as they do, just like we can build an airplane, but we can't fly as well as a bird does. I'm just pretending to be manic right now. I do think these ideas are cool, but ultimately, nobody cares what I think. Nobody cares what I know. I am an insufficient insignificant dumbass. There's no point to my existing anymore. I scream useless things into a camera. As I drive back and forth from poverty to poverty. Oh, ho, ho. I make up the best songs like a songbird trapped in a box. I am totally useless to the world. There's no point in me existing anymore. If only something could take this meaningless existence away, or at least give it to somebody else. What's the point of somebody like me all these things that could help? I could cure any disease, any injury, except really fucked up shit, but for the most part, anything, probably cancer, multiple sclerosis, and if I couldn't, I could show you how to learn to do those things yourself using a combination of water and medicines. In silence, you could cure anything, but nobody cares. Nobody believes me. They all think I'm just retarded, and I say all this stuff for attention, but I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure if you use a river and you spend much time in that river underwater as the water flowed by you, it would radically correct and change your energy system in a way heretofore not thought possible. But nobody cares. Nobody cares how simple it would be to do that. And they would rather spend their money on something else, 'cause this isn't important to anybody. Hopefully, it's all over very soon.